It was we Catholics who raised our voices in defense of all the religious groups that were being persecuted in the territory of Ukraine, Orthodox and Protestant and Catholic alike. I was often asked why I, as a Catholic, undertook to defend Orthodox and Protestants. And these Orthodox and Protestants never say a word about you. I answered that this was something they would have to answer for themselves. I'm speaking about our own work, and you can see our work. We had raised the masses of people. These last 10 years, the struggle for the legalization of the Church. We didn't transgress the limits defined by the Constitution of the USSR. Our position was that of the Constitution, paragraph 2. There is no Ukrainian Constitution. Ukraine is occupied by a foreign occupying power. We have nothing of our own. They've taken our churches, Catholic and Orthodox, and Russia isn't giving us anything today. And paragraph 52 of the Russian Constitution says, in the Socialist Union, there are no, nor can there be any forbidden religions. On these grounds, we raised the movement for legalization. As long as we were in the underground, we were illegal. No one saw how we prayed in the forests. But when we came out of the catacombs and began to worship openly, we would continue to pray in the woods. We were persecuted. But during the perestroika of Gorbachev, we were persecuted more than we were in the Stalin period. But the issue is that now we are doing this legally. They fine us, they beat us, they persecute us, they throw us into jail and prisons. Yet notwithstanding all of this, our protest is legal. The people see what we are doing. I'll show you some pictures later to give the viewers an idea what the persecuted Catholic Church is all about, where the people are being beaten even now, persecuted, where they don't give us bread, they do not allow us to buy butter for our children. You know, that's a major problem today in the USSR, to be able to buy milk, butter, cream, cheese. Long lines, long queues. Sugar is rationed. And this at a time when the USSR is crying to the world that theirs is the best social system and the richest state. Our group, that is the group for the defense of the rights of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, was formed in 1982, and I was arrested that same year in December. They arrested me again on December the 26th and kept me until 1983, and in 1984, 14 days after my release, we began publishing the Chronicles of the Ukrainian Catholic Church. The first initiatory group was composed of myself as chairman, an old monk, Father Gregory Budzinski, a woman faithful, Stefania Petrash Sichko, who has been with me in good and bad times. Then there was Vasil Kobrin, Father Peter Zelenyuk, and my wife Ulana, and one other person whose name I can't reveal even now. For we don't have that perestroika in the Soviet Union which would permit us to speak openly. I was arrested a year and 4 months later, in 1985, and they condemned me in their provincial tribunals to 12 years of prison. Until this time I had been detained in better and worse prisons. But these last 2 years in the camps of the Perm regions were something horrible. I was never allowed to leave solitary confinement. The prisoners were beaten unconscious, and were it not for the events that developed in Western Europe in 1987, I wouldn't be with you today, because it's in this period that the following were killed in that camp: Valery Marchenko, Metrchan Iskan, an Armenian, Oleksa Tichy, Yuri Litvin. The last victim was Slavko Pushkar, when I had already been released. He was my compatriot from Carpathian Ukraine. He had been an officer of the Russian army and a military instructor for the Korean army. They had accused him of spying for North Korea. and he was given 15 years, and then they killed him. When I was released, I immediately set myself to work again. I began collecting signatures for the liquidation of the nuclear stations in Ukraine. I've shown you these 16mm documentary films of my work in collecting signatures in the woods by night in Zarvanitsia. These were the first signatures collected in Ukraine against these nuclear power stations. This movement for renewal began April 26, 1986. The first Chernobyl explosion took place that day at dawn, about 5 a.m. And I want to say that no one paid attention to us and to this fact. It was only the old monks that understood, that paid attention, because they had studied the Apocalypse of St. John the Evangelist, where Chernobyl, bitter root, is expressly mentioned. April 26, 1987, the Church of the Three Saints, that is the Church of the Blessed Trinity in Hrushiv. And this is the church that I'm showing you now in this picture. Here you see the interior of the church, the well with miraculous healing water, and this is where the cross stood, where I would stand and preach. And this is me preaching. The Mother of God appeared to Ukraine about 5 a.m. over that same church above this dome. I didn't want to go to Hrushiv initially. I came to Hrushiv on May 9th. The Russians were spreading rumors in their press that it was I who had organized this religious manifestation, following the directives of the Vatican. They accused me of being a spy of the Vatican, a spy of the American CIA, and they said that I had performed these miracles in the Marian year. You know, this is absurd. For Catholic, miracles aren't really necessary. We don't believe in miracles. We believe in Jesus Christ. And in the Catholic Church, we don't need miracles to confirm the truth of the Catholic Church. Our church does not acknowledge miracles as such, even though we believe and accept miracles. The fact that the Mother of God at times comes to earth to admonish us to convert, this isn't a miracle. This is a norm, the law of life according to God's plan. The Mother of God has come with one and only purpose, to call us to repent and to change our ways, that people might begin to love Jesus Christ truly and to obey Him. We must obey God. It's not enough to say, I love God. How can you love God when you don't obey Him? How can one claim to be a Christian? People who have been married 5 or 6 times and claim to, and pretend to positions of leadership in this or that country. This is absurd. A person who doesn't live a Christian life can't pretend that society will respect them. It's only someone who gives a good example of their lives, so that the younger generations can truly see that here is a person of moral strength. It's difficult to be a moral person in our world. People often ask me, is Satan working in the Soviet Union? But this is absurd. Satan is everywhere. Today the world is dominated by Satan. It's not that the communist regime of Gottwald in Czechoslovakia, Stalin in Russia, Tito in Yugoslavia. No. The entire world, America, Portugal, Italy, the USSR, everywhere you'll find Satan. Everywhere we are finding a decline of faith, abortions that are mounting. There's nothing worse than abortion. And yet no one stops to consider how easily mothers kill their own children. Why has this happened? Only because the governments that are ruling their states fail to remember that a young mother deliberately murdering her child. This is deliberate murder.